Should we start then? Slowly people are coming, so we're good to go. And officially, dear partners, friends, we are very happy to welcome you on the second day of the first 24 hours called The Balkans Go Circular. Yesterday, we had a pleasure to talk with many important actors and important speakers. We were covering topics for circular cities, circular business models, discovering how several countries are approaching to the national, but also to the local level of urban circularity. Today, we're going to discover even more about business models, and I'm proud to say even some startups that are completely dedicated to circular either products or materials. We're going to talk with some important people. And first of all, good morning. I would like to also welcome one of the great impact leaders, action leaders that was pushing for global circularity, and he has managed in several years to voice key topics on circular economy. He has basically focused on societal perspectives and the need for new financial and also business models. He has been working in the Netherlands, but also across Europe and across world. He has focused on building practical and scalable solutions actually on the ground, not on the clouds, and a movement based on multi-stakeholder models, collaboration, transparency, and community. All these words are very important, are easy to say, but very important if we approach circularity from systemic perspective. He is the one that is responsible for creating a global circularity gap report. So if you know, or if you hear that currently the world is circular 9.1 or 8.6%, he is the one that has managed to lead the team to get this tremendous analysis and assessment around the world. He is Harald Friedl, and I'm very happy that I can welcome him to our conference. Please welcome Harald, and Harald, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, Milan. Good morning. Good morning, dear friends everywhere. It's intimidating what you're all saying, Milan. And many things that you're saying resonate very much. So to talk about community, about team, about radical collaboration, I think are themes that are indeed very important for me. And I think they're important for all of us to achieve the change we want to see. And that doesn't come easy. And that's why these themes that you just mentioned, Milan, are really key, because they are like the underground for everything that has to happen. I really congratulate you and your team on making that happen. I definitely would rather be with you rather than here in Amsterdam, where I'm right now, with you in Serbia. As an Austrian, the Balkans and the region are very dear to my heart, obviously. And I hope in the next year, we definitely, hopefully have a conference also on the ground. And it's so interesting, in the last week, I didn't tell you that, Milan, I was speaking on 3 different conferences that were all somewhere around the region. There was a big one in Turkey happening last week. There was one in Slovenia, also with startups and green growth. And now today we're in Serbia, and it's kind of very positive that we don't have to fly there. Obviously also from a circular perspective, but the human connectiveness and connection, I definitely miss a lot. I'm also intimidated because I see in front of me a screen that says world leading expert. And I just want to say, I'm truly not an expert. I'm a student of this matter. And I say this very often because it changes the relationship also with you, the audience. I'm really fascinated by the circular economy. It has given me a kind of a very clear framework how to think of the world. And it has helped me to also focus on achieving action. I have a background in government and business, and also the NGO world. So like a mix of all different worlds, which makes me kind of a strange mix, as my former chairman said to me. But I think it gives me also a very good understanding of what a system needs, because you have to be able to put yourself into the shoe of other people to actually understand what we can change. It's not only a mind issue, it's really a heart issue, my dear friends. And I love with Milan, I said, it's early in the morning, at least here in Holland. It's fairly dark outside still. But you know, wherever you're dialing in from, I hope there are also international guests, maybe even from the US or from Asia, who knows. So a very much good morning and good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are. Get your coffees and teas and wines ready. And let's have a conversation. Please participate as much as you can. I truly, truly appreciate this to get a little bit of feedback and a chat going so we can discuss. And I thought about covering 4 topics after saying thank you to Milan and his team and everybody who is online and listening now and sharing thoughts and challenging and discussing. I would like to answer you a couple of questions. After these questions, to see where we all are, how positive, negative are we feeling of the current situation? What are signs we are seeing emerging? I'm saying this because it feels very weird here in Holland. Tomorrow we're going into the second big lockdown, and we're not at the questions yet, Milan, in a second.
No
and
problem.
then after these questions, I would love to turn to the topic of systems thinking and make it very approachable to you. Often we hear this is a systems thinker or a systems analysis, and a little bit sounds very complicated. And I believe it's not. I just want to give you a good example of what that could mean. And then talk about circular economy again. And I think maybe also double dipping on what you guys have been discussing yesterday. Unfortunately, I haven't been dialing in yesterday, and hopefully I have a chance to hear more of the fantastic speakers you have been brought together. And then discuss with you again, see if there are any questions that are coming out. So that would be my goal. And I'm standing here partly amazed by the last year, the things that have changed so fast that we didn't think were possible, which give me obviously hope that the right changes can be done also fast if we are under pressure, if we see the importance. And I think 3 things I want to share with you are truly for me the words of 2020. One is it's not about words, but about action. So action is absolutely has to be the word of this year. The second thing is there's something around radical collaboration and transparency that I believe we have to own and live to be able to make the change. Because when we look deeply into ourselves, dear friends, it's often we are held back by our own beliefs, right? We are held back by our mental barriers, and this has to stop, and we can stop it. We are strong enough for this when we believe and have a very clear goal on the way forward. And the third thing that is I want to throw out there at the beginning was what the Japanese environment minister said a couple of months ago to me, that this transition also has to be sexy. And I sometimes mention that because it is, it's in a sustainability world often not talked about. It's a very serious world. It's an impact world. And I had to also myself this year get myself back into the business of having fun with it. I think we need to be having fun with systems thinking, and that's sometimes not an easy one, but we have to focus on it because we want to inspire people. It's not about convincing the bubble. It's about going out there and really making things possible with other people. And that's why I think this making it interesting, sexy, appealing, whatever you call it, that is appropriate for you, is another one that I often have in my mind when I'm talking to you today, for example. What is interesting you truly? Why would you be interested in going through slides with me? I think when I speak from my heart, then hopefully I reach you better. And therefore, please, please, please keep in mind, it's about not what I believe, it's about what the others, also where the others are in their life journeys. And therefore, we have to really make it interesting and appealing. And that's not always easy. But at the end of the day, we want to, I think, all do good in this world. And that always brings me a lot of hope. So, Milan, this was my introduction, a little bit what's on my mind this morning. And I'd love to try. Please connect, dear friends. It's always wonderful to hear and be connected on social media. I really like that because there's a chance also when you have a project, when you have an alliance, when you need support. I'm trying to be fairly active on LinkedIn, but also on Instagram to make sure we're weaving this global community together because we can help each other so much. There are a lot of lessons learned from the Balkans to the Nordics, from Central Europe to America, from Africa back to Europe. All these opportunities we have to start to weave together and harvest. So please therefore stay connected. That would be really, really important. And I think with Milan, we agreed we even have until 10 or 10:30 for this conversation. So please stay with us. Milan, I'd love to, if it's possible, go to the conversation about the questions. And now, guys, please be active as active as possible. I don't see this in front of me yet. Yes, perfect.
Let's see now. Yeah, better.
Thank you very much. We have prepared Mentimeter questions. Please go on www.menti.com. And maybe it's also good to put it in the chat. And the code is 4784796.
Yes.
4784796. Milan, please.
Yes, and I will just put this in the chat so everyone can just copy paste this if they needed to.
Thank you. And that's a wonderful picture. Truly, I hope this is in your country. Don't really can.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's a little
Nice.
It's a little bit more green.
Amazing. And we wanted to ask you, please dial into menti.com. Is the COVID crisis slowing down progress towards the circular economy? I think a very interesting question, as we have been in lockdown partly. The focus has been on health, on also making, repairing the disrupted businesses that we have seen. And I'd love to hear from anybody out there what they are thinking. The question is not open for voting, Sasha said.
No. Oh, perfect. Let's see now.
So we have to open it.
Yeah, that's something happens with Menti. It plays with us.
Yes, the digital technology is COVID crisis. Is the COVID crisis we're all experiencing globally?
As you said, it's amazing how fastly we adapt on the new circumstances, isn't it? And that's the real systems, adaptive systems, you know.
Yeah, interesting. We see here a kind of a fight between yes and no. Is the COVID crisis slowing down? Yes, it's slowing down, or no, it's not slowing down. We have a slight majority even for it's not slowing down, which is fantastic. So people are a little bit more positive, and I really like that. So a slightly positive feeling. We had the same when I polled recently with our friends in Turkey. They were even a bit more positive than the audience this morning, but people believe in the opportunity to progress right now, and that's amazing. If you can go to the next question again, keep it open. Let's see if we get there. Thanks everybody online for playing with us here. The voting closed again, okay.
Yeah, let's see. All right, now we have a winner fights. So the question is, what negative examples do you see concretely from the COVID crisis? And you have 45 seconds to answer.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, we have seen obviously in the last month in the building back better ways of going out of this crisis. Some countries have tried to also implement certain measures. I personally think we should have seen more. I was hoping for a bit more. We have seen some opportunities. For example, in Austria, there was one where the rescue for the airline carrier by the state was linked to certain climate targets. So this was a good example. And some countries have come up with interesting commitments. So what are we seeing? Milan, do you want to go through them or should...
Yeah, let's see why. All right. So the thing is that people don't go out anymore. We say slowing down development of poor countries. Okay, that's an interesting one. It's really a systemic wide impact. We have more virtual conferences. Is it a good or bad? And we have general activities slowed down due to lockdowns.
Yeah, it's an interesting reflection. Slowing down is something that is sometimes considered, and we'll get back to this a bit later, as maybe something even positive. You know, it gives us a chance to reflect. But the development of poor countries definitely has not been so much in the focus. I would see that as well. And virtual conferences are obviously a big change maker. Not only virtual conferences, virtual schooling, all of this. The world has gotten back together. We have, I think, accepted the digital way of working much more, which I think in a mix is really an amazing thing. So it's really, really, really positive. Also this morning, you know, we can focus on getting together here online, and hopefully on next year can focus on even more action together when we see each other. Okay, next question. Hopefully we also ask for the positive then, huh? Yeah. Please, is this a little bit similar than the first question, but seeing one more time, is the COVID crisis an opportunity for change? So does slowing down give us a chance to reevaluate? And here everybody is over.
Wow.
That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. The Balkans goes virtual circularly, has voted that this is a big opportunity for change. And I agree with you. It doesn't make it any easier, but absolutely that's a fantastic opportunity. Okay, let us do the next one.
Okay. Let's see, we have question 2 that says, what positive examples do you see in this kind of development? Again, let's see in next 45 minutes.
45 seconds?
Sorry, yeah, I will be really long answer for 45 minutes.
You guys have 45 seconds. What positive examples do you see? I have mentioned one before, tying really the rescue packages, trying to financing that we are seeing coming up to new targets. I think the circular economy plan and the package by the European Union is giving a very positive signal. I think that also a positive signal was that the new Biden administration in the US is going to recommit to the Paris Agreement. So that is an important one. And I truly feel if we have more of this positive news, then there is also going to unleash a positive spiral of change.
So,
over to you.
What we have here is less pollution, digital transformation, being able to rethink existing activities, time to re-evaluate and take actions, cleaner planet, decrease raw material, I would say, consumption, cooperation is enhanced, and finally, resources stay in the country, much more time for ourselves. All right, wow, that's a very complex one, the last one.
Rethink existing activities and cooperation enhanced. Yes, I think this year, according to the big Paris Agreement of 2015, there was a necessity to this year, for the first time, go down with the trend with climate emissions, so with greenhouse gas emissions. And actually, it's happening this year. It's interesting, and definitely, according to all experts, has to do. Less pollution is here. The first answer has to do with the with less air travel, with us moving less. And I think while maybe this is not yet here, the optimal situation has shown again what is positive. So I also think fantastic positive examples. Also cooperation enhanced. That's maybe even bigger one. I think that's hopefully there to stay, and not only a short-term measure. So let's go to the next question. And again, thanks for the organizers for the Balkan Circular Economy Conference. Question 3 of 3. Mentimeter, please.
No. What? Okay, this is the one. What we need to do right now to accelerate the progress?
Yes. Is that our last question?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. So what do we need right now? It's a topic about which I want to talk about a little bit later as well. And I've talked about the need to make that change sexy and to really act and to come from a place of radical transparency. That's I think all key to accelerate progress from our mindset. But I'm really interested of seeing what you guys are putting out there. And then we go into a short presentation from my side. Still 5 seconds. I'm really interested what's going to come here now.
All right. So what we see is, wow. Collaborate, transparency, no selfishness. Educate, learn more, accept that we need to change. Rethink, reuse, revalue. Cooperate and build new initiatives, network with people. All right, these are also well, in line is if I would say that if I would say that we didn't talk about aligning between our talks yesterday and today, people would not believe me because you are touching many points actually about transparency, collaboration, etc. And now people here are also showing this similar attitude. So,
yeah, that's the amazing thing about this Mentimeter things, right? So if you in the talks yesterday, if what we see now is actually evaluate, reconfirming what you have been talking about yesterday, I mean, has nothing to do with me truly. It just apologies. It just is an opportunity to see what do people out there think, and they're talking about collaborate transparently. That's amazing. To learn more, accept how we need to change, cooperate, educate. It's really wonderful difference to see that. So thanks. That closes our first part to get you all a bit involved, and that's fantastic. Thank you very much for all your answers. And Milan, we can close the screen. And when I was on stage and we could still be in rooms together, I sometimes try to do a little exercise together to get us in the same mode. And I don't want to go now into a meditative experience while I still believe that we should put some music on. And Milan and I were definitely discussing that. I'd love to, and please share if you have any ideas. Would love to integrate music more with this kind of conversations and talks we have. But it's something that I'm exploring with at the moment. So if you have any good idea for that, let me know. But I want to take 3 breaths with you, 3 times a deep breathing. So that maybe you let your shoulders loose. And for 1, we're gonna inhale and let everything go that we don't need. So just we inhale a fresh air. And I want to encourage you to let everything out. We absolutely don't need in this moment, you know, the negativity, the obstructiveness, the trying to be eager to convince somebody, but really get into the flow of things. The second thing is to breathe in and then breathe out and take everything in that we actually need right now, like courage, like hope, like the willingness to engage others. So I encourage you one more time to breathe in together with me. And then also out. And the second breath has given us a lot of strength to not only go through this 1 hour now together that we still have, but truly to bring in the best in and out of ourselves. So really to tap into our inner strength. And the third piece is, and I truly feel that despite the fact I haven't met Milan, the team, many of you, the feeling of connectedness, I think, is an important one that gives us hope every single day as we are going through tough times. So I encourage you again for the 3rd time to take a breath with me and breathe out and experience and feel a little bit with closed eyes also maybe into the connectedness that brings us all together here today to the wonderful conference that the Balkans go circular. Thank you very much for your trust in that. And I think it's a very bold statement. And I said this to the team because it's not a question mark, it's an exclamation mark. We go circular. There's no doubt that this is necessary. And I think the circular economy is such a strong systems approach. I'd love to talk to you about a little bit what systems thinking actually means this morning. As it's sometimes taken as granted. And you have fantastic courses online about systemic change. But there are 5 things that are important, I think, kind of a pillars or the basics of systems thinking that often come back. And one is, and it goes without saying, that it's about interconnectedness. We're not alone. We are part of a system. And I'm going to talk to you about this later again when we talk about circularity. When we see that things are connected, we can start, and it opens a space that we actually can behave differently. That's 1. Things are interconnected. 2, that it's about the synthesis of things. That 1 + 1 actually is 5, not 3. You shouldn't tell this to your kids, but more energy together brings an even bigger, better outcome. And it's about one building on the other. You have to accept interconnectedness to be able to build synthesis. maybe sometimes also call it flow. So really whatever works for you, interconnectedness, synthesis are very important basic principles. The third one is emergence. So we sometimes, as they say, have to get out of our own way to let things appear. And this is going very deep into our belief system as well. Sure, we are able to create a lot of things, but if we truly understand of how how nature is moving, how people around us are moving, and understand these deeper currents, then we can see what kind of movements are coming up where. And I think that some of this we have seen also in the circular economy movements all over the world, with the Circular Economy Club and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, circular economy, many different hubs all around the world leading this. And I've been always eager to try to bring them together in kind of an international network of things. The fourth one is that in the system, whenever you do something, it has a reaction and it comes also back. So these are called feedback loops. And these feedback loops can be positive or negative, but they're sometimes not what you think they are. So reinforcing feedback loops are not necessarily better, because more and more of the same can also be too much for a system. Think about algae in a pool, in a swimming pool. When it's too much, when they are reinforcing the production of algae and it's getting too much, a system is eventually stopping and malfunctions, doesn't work anymore. While on the other hand, when you have balancing feedback loops, so think about in nature, the example often is given is the prey and predator relationship. That needs to be a balance everywhere so that the system can continue to thrive. And the last one is causality. So you have to decipher how things are influencing each other. It's one of my favorite themes if I'm sitting in the evening and think about a topic, be it this conference or be it something I'm working on at the moment in the team of the climate change negotiations. How can you influence the system? How things are gonna cause how one thing is gonna cause another one. Who do you have to talk to? How can you approach somebody? What kind of levers you have to pull? I think that's really a fascinating one. And so these are 5 things that you should keep in mind when you talk about system thinking. And I think it's a kind of the basic pillars. So one you have, the last one was causality, feedback loops, emergence, synthesis, and interconnectedness. And there are many examples out there, and hopefully you have a chance also to look into this topic a little bit more online. And one example I want to talk to you about, which is at the moment, as I work for the global climate change negotiations at the moment. So we are thinking of how do we change big systems? It's the same as in circular economy. How do we change a city to go circular, a business to go circular, a business alliance to change? And I want to give you an example because it's going to be very prominent very soon. It's the example of stopping the internal combustion engine and the emergence of electric vehicles. And that's been a very interesting one because only, I think 5 or 8 years ago, the International Energy Agency said that normal cars, as we know them now, the cars from the past that have an internal combustion engine will only be phased out in 2070. 2070, well, this is like in 50 years. But we are running out of time, guys, and it's always easy to say we have commitments for 2050, which is great, by the way, but then we have to really go into action. What are the actions in the next year and the next 5 years? Because that's going to make the difference now. And absolutely, I'm also a proponent. You have to know where you're going long term. So the International Energy Agency said 2070, and suddenly this company Tesla comes into the market and shows everybody that it's also possible to do it differently. And they're not the only ones. We all know that. But they have been very successful. Whatever you think about Elon Musk, they have to be very successful in disrupting the market and showing how disruption is possible. And on top of this, he has also now a very good market evaluation. We have to also admit that. And then we don't have only the people producing the cars, because yes, it's nice to have the supply signal, but you need somebody to buy it, obviously. And that's up to us consumers. But it's also important that the policies around it are shaped in the right way. What did it mean? It suddenly cities like Copenhagen, Mexico, Quito, LA, Vancouver says, we want to be carbon-free zones. We don't want to have any more polluting industry, cars in our cities, because we have commitment to make this city livable for the citizens. And this I find a fascinating move on the way forward, because suddenly the whole discussion is changing. When a city doesn't want it, means eventually they will have to change the public space and allow less cars or different cars. So there's a big move coming from the regulators or from the people who are creating public policy. And then suddenly, there's big movements coming like Extinction Rebellion. Anyway, the consumer is standing up and saying, we definitely don't want to continue like in the past. And then suddenly also the people who invented the internal combustion engine, like Mercedes, the fantastic German car makers, say, we have to change our targets. And now Mercedes committed to a target to go to a net zero by 2039. It still sounds a long time, but given the fundamental change we need to see, they are saying 2039 is the last internal combustion engine being produced by us. I mean, and this would have been possible when all these different pieces of the puzzle, that systems thinking, systems analysis, wouldn't have to start moving, because they're coming back to the principles we just talked about. They are interdependent. There are feedback loops between the different, because when a policymaker acts, a business person will adapt to these new opportunities. We need to see things emerging, and absolutely everything is interconnected. So this is kind of systems thinking applied, and we can talk about it also from a circular economy perspective, obviously, what happens in cities, but not now. I just wanted to share this because it happened in the last days, and I was very happy to also see the car maker then also commit to a different goals for the future, because these goals are important. And this was kind of talking about system thinking. And then I wanted to share some things that often annoy me, and I wanted to share it with you also to get some feedback from you. It really annoys me sometimes that it seems that people who want change, like hopefully people on the call, have to argue why we want change. And so I called them the 5 PSs of why we shouldn't change. And please help me to refine them, because this needs to be crowdsourced, but I want to test them with you, and leave your comments or send me ping me on Instagram or LinkedIn if you totally cannot relate to this. One is, people often say, and when they're talking to me, I am powerless. And then it often shocks me, because yes, we are only one person, that's true. But as we are part of a system, we have actually opportunity to impact a system. And that's how we have to think of ourselves. We're connected in so many different ways, in our families, in our organizations, in businesses, as voters. So our opportunities, especially given the digital power we have now at our fingertips, is enormous. That is one. The second thing is, the current system is good. That's what people sometimes seem to argue when they say, why are you arguing for systems change? And then we say, yeah, but we all know that so many things are happening that actually don't work anymore. You know, the mass extinction of animals, wildfires, then destruction of the environmental space, bigger inequality all over the world, a few benefiting. It just doesn't work at the moment. Climate change on top of everything, obviously, which I didn't want to forget. So let's not get ourselves into the weak position here. Let's be very firm and say the facts all speak a certain language, and we have a new generation that demands this change much faster. So never get onto the back foot, I think, as they say in English, and let yourself be overwhelmed when somebody doesn't understand it. I think we need to definitely be patient and compelling, but it's important to also stand our ground. And then it's unclear what we need to do. That's the third one. Third one, favorite, unclear what to do. Recently, an insurance company said to me, we have a problem because there are 180 definitions of circular economy out there. But truly, it's not about the definition of a circular economy. Yes, they're all slightly different, but I'm going to get back to you at when I was CEO at Circular Economy, we did an analysis of all these 100+ definitions, and you can boil them down to 7, 8, or 10. I really don't care what you use, which framework, just use a framework. That's really good. You reuse a framework, and we're all smart enough. So I often sense my bullshit smeller says when people hide behind the definition of things, we have to call them out and also say, I believe it's not about the definition, it's about making this into action, which is hard. That's where the hard part starts. It's not about the definition. Then division versus inclusion would be my fourth difficult thing to accept. I think the division is often driven between all of us, to incentivize individual action rather than collective action is something really hard to understand and accept. I've recently become very interested in the commons network. So how do we actually create commons digitally in our public places, that we care again together, that we can take care again together of the things that we value most in this world. So that's an important one. And the fifth one, and that's not a bullshit one, but what it definitely needs for systems change, what you cannot forget, and then the last travel I did to Switzerland, a person stood up after I was speaking and said, don't forget one thing, courage. And I definitely believe that. I don't say all these things very lightly that I say to you this morning, but I believe in them very deeply. When we talk about radical collaboration, 1 + 1 is 5, that we really have to go beyond ourselves. This is all not easy. And that's why it's so fantastic that Milan and his team, the Balkans Go Circular, with all the partners I see, Climate Kick, Clean Tech, the Chambers of Commerce, Athena, the Wuppertal Institute, Circular Economy Beacons, what a fantastic word, that this all have to come together to build community. And with this community, we're going to have the support to actually change. I think that's really, 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 really important. It needs a lot of courage to be the one that says, actually, let's do it differently, guys. But I think in the end of the day, this is where we want to go. Okay, these were a couple of thoughts on this morning, and I hope it was a bit useful. Milan, am I okay on time? Can you give me just a thumbs up or thumbs down? Then I would like to talk about circularity if it's is next. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect timing, and you can freely talk about this. Well, we're gonna harvest maybe some questions if we have, but please.
Do we have some comments in the meantime in the chat? Anything that came up? Otherwise, we're gonna go into the presentation.
Yeah, just words of praise that you're great and that you're highly energetic for this early morning. People are happy actually joining Zoom from YouTube, so which is good.
Yeah, fantastic. That's good. Please leave comment. We're also on Instagram Live. My social media team said we have to do this. I want to share a story that I had with Milan before, because we're going to talk a little bit about, and I don't know what time it is actually, it's 10 o'clock. So maybe 15 minutes about circular economy and the COVID crisis. And I had an interesting experience yesterday when I was going to the shared car service, and I told Milan and the team just before when we were preparing this morning and had a coffee together that I opened the car, and for my surprise, a homeless person has used the shared car in Amsterdam for getting some protection from the cold. And it was a very strange moment, I have to tell you, because I truly believe that this COVID situation will not make it easy economically for all of us. And then crisis, as we have seen before, we all positive about change, but changing economic times when it's going to get harder, looking for the right thing to do is also going to sometimes get harder. And this homeless person in the morning just made me again feel grateful. That was my feeling. Yes, we can share some food and some warm drinks with homeless people. I think that's always a good thing to do. Structurally, we have to try really to keep the economy to change the economy in a good way, but give people a hope and not desperation that we all can go through this together. And therefore, obviously, interesting thoughts are out there, like the whole discussion about the universal basic income is a very interesting one that can also take maybe for the future away a couple of the fears of the future, because fear will not help us to go through this in a healthy way, I believe. I just want to share the story of my morning yesterday with you, because I believe we have to take care of each other. That's what I wanted to say, and I mean this very humbly. Let's take care of each other, the ones that we are more fortunate at this moment, to the ones and with the others that are less fortunate maybe. And this COVID crisis, and thanks for listening and really tuning in. A colleague from South America last time put this wonderful virus. I think it's really a 3D animation of the COVID virus. We had some questions to you at the beginning. Thanks for answering them. And we have seen a couple of things in that time really emerge. And one is that the old system, we've talked about this before, and the question was always, is the circular economy now a good answer? And you can also Google, I think there was maybe 3-4 months ago in the Financial Times, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation with a couple of very famous CEOs, again, put the call out there saying the circular economy remains a good answer. And absolutely, it is a good answer in a crisis or not in a crisis. and hopefully we can use the crisis to advance the progress much faster. We've seen the vulnerability of global supply chains. That was a big one for me. So it was the delivery of my own phone. The phone just didn't arrive for weeks. It maybe took 3 months, something that normally takes a week. And these global supply chains with our highly specialized economy just doesn't fit anymore the needs we're going to have in the future of local economies. When we all panic about lockdowns, we have to be self-sufficient in a way. And I very much believe in this. And I think circular economy has this core. Now I hear the bubble. It was also interesting that through this current crisis, we saw that health, the well-being of people became a real topic that also policymakers put at the center of attention, because it was partly underestimated. I like this very much when we were working with my friend Kate Raworth, the author of Donut Economics. We discussed on how can we bring donut thinking to Amsterdam and mix it with circular economy thinking. And it's very applicable, obviously. The city of Amsterdam said, what is the most important in the future? It is to have thriving citizens, because they make for a thriving city. I think so. Health, well-being, super important reminder. We talked about this morning already. Sorry for the duplicity. That we need a community to hold ourselves, to keep ourselves straight, accountable. And I think myself as well, by just being cut off from traveling a lot, we had a chance to reconnect. And I think in the answers, Milan, was very interesting. People said, let's also connect again. Let's bring this to the communities and create transparency. And I think that's an important one. And something we also learned is obviously economic realities, the policy frameworks we have, and where we want to go still diverges a lot. So we should call that out and make this into action points. It's my favorite, Star Wars, obviously. Where we want to go is not business as usual, guys. We want to do not a little bit less bad. That was good enough for the 2000s or for the 1990s. Let's do a little bit less bad. No, we need to do fundamentally better. And I think for us as humans, this is also the way to go, because fundamentally better will also be for us humans the next step. We are systems, we have discussed this before. That's the one page explanation of circular economy. I think a fantastic one by circular economy. I really like it. We have the butterfly diagram from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And I think, again, it's not, please, about which framework you use a framework. All fantastic organizations out there that are busy with that. I like frameworks that make it more human to explain. So the butterfly diagram is one, but this one is such a nice one because normally it's this linear way of doing things where you make something from a resource, and in the end of the day, 90% of the things, and that's crazy, are either incinerated or put into the ground in some kind of dump. And that's stupid. We all know that. You wouldn't do this in your own house. You wouldn't just throw everything away in your garden or incinerate it. But the circular economy is like this addition to Western medicine. It's this Chinese medicine, a holistic way of thinking about things that is regenerative and redistributive. And I think these are very powerful words, also used by Kate Raworth sometimes, that I like to think about. Redistribution is something in society I think we have to think about more, and regeneration. So how we do not less bad, but how actually we regenerate with everything we are doing, the system around us. And some companies like Patagonia really have to start to think about this. And how do you do this? This is on this slide. You are kind of cycling back, closing the loops by maintaining, reusing, and refurbishing, recycling. Don't get caught up in a conversation when somebody says circular economy is recycling.
Yeah.
Answer is yes, it is also, but it's also one small part of it. Really important. We discussed this a little bit this morning when I was giving you my heart speech about where we are today. That's really, let's design systems where the human and the planet is at the center of our thinking. It's not the economy. The economy is us. I think we should be inspired by nature. Often this is mentioned. I think it's a difficult one because we can't always reference to nature because we have evolved so much. But it's amazing how inspiring nature is in its systems that are set up for the long term. I think that's the interesting piece. And for this all, we have to be radically transparent. We have to be inclusive.
Harald,
yeah.
If you would like maybe to answer 2 questions are here popping up.
Fantastic. Is this in the chat?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
One is from Adriana, which asked, which is the strongest argument to stimulate the change, actually, because we're talking about radical and disruptive changes, right?
What's the strongest argument to advocate for change?
Exactly.
Milan, what do you think?
Wow, that's a good one. But, well, we don't have any space or time to move back, so we can only move in one direction. That is the regenerative one that you told.
Yeah. I'm trying to think as well. Because it's what's the strongest argument that we have to change?
I mean, also the thing is that the people quite often ask me how to sell circular economy. It's not about selling, it's about understanding where you stand and what are your opportunities for the future. So
no, in this I totally agree with you. I think a good argument is that we can do better together, I believe. That why do we need to accept rules from the past that for many haven't worked? Maybe I would throw it back. What's her name? Sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Adriana.
Adriana, maybe I would even reflect it back to people and say, are we satisfied with the current situation? Sometimes I ask myself and also my kids sometimes, is this all we have got? Is this really the best we can give? I think when we give the best, that's so inspiring. Then we are kind of in sync with the flow and the universe. I really like that. And I think we all feel when we are slightly off there and when we are on the linear side, when we think about, maximize profits, all about ourselves, I don't think, and that's my argument, this leads to happiness. Yeah. I think what we discussed this morning, like transparency, collaboration, 1 + 1 is 5, leads to more happiness for me. And I think many people resonate with that. So I would ask maybe people not to make an argument, but what is, where do you think what makes you happy? And what does it mean like and look like to bring this to the world and to the economy? Okay, and if you have these kind of basic principles by the person who asks you, then it's what kind of is circular economy maybe an interesting approach? I would turn it around. Obviously, we can give the hard facts, the 10, I think that I had this at some point in my head, the 10, 100,000 and 10,000. We have 10 more years. This is the hard facts, 10 more years to 2030 with climate change to avoid climate chaos. And to be honest, with system thinking, this might all go faster, with the ice caps melting, etc. It's happening at a speed that we didn't want to see before. I think 100 was the extinction of animals on the planet, species. Then 1,000 was still 1,000 times more subsidies for fossil fuel than for the bioeconomy. Mm-hmm. And 10,000 is 10,000 wildfires were, I think, raging in the middle of this year on the planet at one given point of time. So I think we can also say this would be interesting examples and what has caused this kind of damages and bad reactions. Please, I hope this answered a little bit. That's how I would. It's always difficult to say yes, no. Answers are a very short one, but this would be my explanation how I would try to convince people, or how I would respond to people. We can't convince. We can just see if we can inspire them to look into the same direction. Milan, what's the second question?
Exactly. The second question comes from Martin, who asks, I wonder if Harald may comment on the relationship, role, and responsibilities of circular economy for climate action and the Paris Agreement. So
a responsibility for circular. Sorry, I had to sneeze.
No problem.
The circular economy responsibility for climate action. Is this what you said?
Yes, relationship, role, and responsibility of circular economy for climate action and the Paris Agreement. Yeah,
fantastic question. Love it. Why? Because it's not happening enough. And it always pissed me off that the circular economy world sometimes seems to be de-linked from the climate change world. And so some of you know I was the last 3 years until February this year, CEO of Circular Economy, which is an impact-based organization in Amsterdam. That was really working hard on this transition. And now I work on the team of the Global Climate Action Champion, who tries to bring businesses, cities, investors, faith-based organization into the race to net zero and towards a world that avoids climate chaos and creates a sustainable future. And I think there is a big responsibility that the circular economy is a means to an end. Let's never forget that, a means to an end to achieve something.
Exactly.
So what are the main goals? I think thriving cities, thriving people is one. To have a healthy planet and therefore a healthy climate is another one. So, and I recognize the fact it's not always easy, because in the circular economy, we talk about systems change. We have different impact parameters. And one of them, I think, should be the environment and the climate one. Obviously, there are economic ones as well, there are financial ones, and there are also the ones on the government side. But definitely a big responsibility for anybody who is involved in circular economy to think about how this has a positive impact on climate and hopefully net negative emissions, whatever you are doing. And let's really try to have this conversation at the same time. One of our most urgent questions of our time has to be involved from the circular economy world. Sometimes it seems to be absent, but I think a more alignment or a closer collaboration between these two spaces is really important. Yeah. Thanks. Milan, continue to interrupt me. It's such a fantastic morning to see also people voicing their concerns or their input, speaking from their heart. And honestly, I come back to what Milan said, and I said in the morning, I'm only a student of all of this. It just, I also happen to be a student that is interested in many different issues, to my own annoyance sometimes, and to the annoyance of my own mom, who always said that's one of my big strengths, but also big weaknesses, because things are interconnected. That's why it's so hard to leave out one space. And again, when you have any ideas how we can bring music and circular economy more together and the impact field, let me know. So we go back to our little conversation about what needs to happen now. I think we can keep this also very short, because we want to be finished like in 13 minutes, I think. What needs to happen now? As always, we need to make a plan. With CirEkon, when we're there, we made plans for cities and countries, and we had initial gap reports, or we said, this is a strategy for your city where you want to go. City of Amsterdam saying thriving cities and thriving citizens by 2030. This has to happen. This is what we have to change economically, socially, environmentally. But don't fall for, we know where we're going. Now you have to define truly with the stakeholders that you're working with, where you want to go. Fostering collaboration, therefore, the most interesting pieces where when we, for example, in my own home country, Austria, we did the gap analysis, how circular Austria is, which is also below 10%. Then you can see that the discussion at the beginning of where we want to go and what does the analysis show brings the stakeholders together. And we manage that not only policymakers are in the room, but when we invite the businesses, civil society organizations, and have this conversation from the beginning, we're creating kind of a buy-in. And that's the interesting piece. Wherever you work with this buy-in from the beginning, building the multi-stakeholder alliances that we want to see. And from this then go into, this is our goal, and then break it down into action plans and accountability. It's very important, I think. Shaping incentives along this way. Incentives always help. Tax incentives for products from secondary use would always be good and appreciated from any policymaker. Happened in Sweden, was always a positive example that's being given. But definitely give incentives to circular behavior would be a recommendation from me to any policymaker. And therefore, also give the opportunity for circular businesses to thrive. And I think, Milan, you talked to a couple of startups that are also hopefully on the call and part of your conference. That is really important. We have to show it works. And there are fantastic entrepreneurs out there, but they're all working with 3 times the pressure as a normal entrepreneurs, because they don't want to only make money. Hopefully they also want to do societally the right thing, and then also have the right impact parameters. That's really a tough job, and incentives have to be created for this. I want to jump this a little bit. Basically, a systems map, a circular economy map can be done. And this was the one before. This is what this was done by circular economy for a city. It's always a very nice scale in a city. How do the resources flow through a city, and how can this be changed? Because it makes it so clear that there are resources that at the end, that you see on the right side here, are coming out of a process, can obviously be used in a new process. So no, there's no waste to any process. There can be a resource for another one. On a country level, it's not only happening in Austria and Norway, we did analysis, but also with UNDP and shifting paradigms. There was a fantastic analysis being done in Asia, here with Laos. It's online, you can see it, an alternative development perspective for Laos, to try to help also emerging economies to steer away from what they call the resource curse. So when you have resources, be it gold, be it cobalt, be it wood, be it oil, don't just sell it. It's just such a short-term focused thing. No, think long-term, and think circularly. Obviously, it would help you to break that pattern as well. Very interesting one to look, and we come back and coming to the end slowly also. It's truly this year has to be action, action, action. And on my social media, you will find different frameworks. The one that I like very much is the Wheel of Opportunity. So you can just print it. I think it's on my Instagram account, where with CirEkon, we did this analysis. Fantastic colleague who said, okay, it doesn't matter. We have all these different definitions of circularity. You don't need to reinvent one. But when you boil it down to 7 key pillars, these were the ones that came out. Sure, it can be more complex, but this is just a good starting point. And we also added to these different pillars creative questions. So when we talk about regenerative resources, yes, sure, it's renewable energy, that's one, but also how can you reuse, like the example, bread to beer in Glasgow, how can you use the waste of a certain system as a resource for something else? Renewable energy with enormous breakthrough in the last years, it's obviously a great example that solar is now so competitive, and hopefully other regenerative energy sources will be as competitive in the future. And preserving and extending what's already made. Again, on the left side here, you see the resource-oriented things. On the right side of this scheme, you see more the things that are underlying.
Harald, sorry for interrupting. Would you are you sharing the presentation so people can maybe?
I thought I'm sharing. No,
I was sharing. But okay, yeah, let's see.
I'm not sharing. Oh, that's embarrassing. The whole time I'm not sharing.
No, but we had a nice picture of you there on screen.
Oh my God, I apologize.
Never mind. I mean, we will if it's okay, we can maybe.
Yes, I totally.
Okay, great. Okay.
I'm talking into a presentation. I thought you all see that. Big apologies. Oh my God. You're very polite not to interrupt me earlier. So sorry.
Yeah, I just realized that you might have, because you're talking like from the heart.
I hope it was not too boring the last hour that we were talking about the world and why we have to change and what holds us back and bringing this back to circular economy. So dear friends all over where you are now online, these are kind of the 7 pillars that we identified when I was with circular economy and what can drive systems thinking and circular economy forward. You'll find them on my Instagram account. Just look at it, and I really liked the combination. We kind of sorted them, arranged them into the Wheel of Opportunity. And in the Wheel of Opportunity, you have questions to can answer yourself. So it can get you today on the journey to circularity, towards the circular economy. You don't have to wait for a consultant or a specialist. You know, we are all specialists. If you have the heart in the right place, I can assure you the circular economy comes as something very naturally, something very natural. And I was talking on the left side, there are these pillars that are coming and looking at change from the resourcing perspective. So use regenerative resources, that's obviously a no-brainer. Preserving and extending what we already have. That's a difficult in our society, obviously, especially around Christmas. Everybody wants the newest thing immediately. And I think, therefore, we have to rethink. Just fast fashion can't be a thing in the 2021 anymore. The madness that all of us are part of when we are shopping on Black Friday, online shopping is just not a very good thing from a circular perspective to do. Because things are just, when they are sent back and not used, they are mostly destroyed by the production companies. Because it's just cheaper to do it. And that's the big problem. So we don't need, I want to go here a bit further, don't need only to rethink the business model, but we need to rethink all policy frameworks, because a lot of this is policy as well.
Mm.
Different business models obviously give very interesting ways forward. For example, when you have a leasing of clothes, the famous example, you have the leasing of the jeans, or my friend
Mud jeans.
Art, the mud jeans. But that's not only the only example, you know,
Yeah.
several, also Patagonia, I think it's going this direction. Keep things in use, and when you incentivize somebody and say, this is, you pay a rent, you're not buying it, but we take it back and we produce a new product, a new a piece of clothes of it. I think that's a powerful one. This rethinking the business model is a tough one, because it changes all the financial flows, it changes the balance sheet. And we did this case study with Fairphone, and we really had 6 months to solve it together with the producer, the user, the insurance company, and the financier. It's not an easy thing to do. It's possible, though. It's really possible. In the center of it, it's the collaboration. And the collaboration, I think a good example that always stuck in my mind is that Ford, the car producer, comes together with a ketchup company to make from the materials that are not used when you make ketchup. So the peel, you can make a material, a biomaterial that you can use in the car instead of plastic. That's an interesting symbiosis. Unlikely allies we haven't thought about could collaborate and can come up with a new value. That's an interesting example. I like the thinking of new value creation, by the way. So it's all about, in the circular system, it's another good framework, is how can we keep things at its highest value for a long time. Yeah, design for the future. And now I'm going to wrap it really up, because we are far in time. And yes, we can share this presentation. Obviously, again, sorry for talking without the presentation before. I hope you were not bored. Designing for the future. Think about the future when you are making anything. Because when you have designed something, a building, for example, it's kind of locked in for a rather long time, and the flexibility for change changes. There were also here in Holland, for example, the discussion about the Circular Design Center. Fantastic work being done, circular design. You will find that also online. Really, really, really a very important topic, and an important kind of mastery. And digital technology, one of my favorite ones, you know. All the sensors we have are amazing opportunity to do much better. The optimization of truck routes when we talk about the waste system, or new opportunities in reverse technology. When we talk about infrastructure, that's really reverse logistics. That's a very important one. So we make actually possible that all these resource streams are linked. There are fantastic people working on online marketplaces that are connecting used materials and trying to connect them with new users. So digital technology, also the blockchain, it's not the one fits all solution, but blockchain technology can also create much more transparency around the supply chain. I think that's really a very, very strong feature for the future. So try it out. I don't have all the answers for you. We were talking quite a little bit this morning, Milan, from, amazing. I think we came from where our heart is at the moment, yeah. That we bring ourselves in the same space, and that we need to be really courageous, that this systems, the need for systems change needs us all to connect, that we need to inspire people, make the whole thing really sexy. I tried to give you an example of how systems can change very fast when we talked about the ending of the internal combustion engine, the normal car as we know it, that is polluting very much and is only used by a person or two. So how this can be changing into a world where we think about mobility much more integrally. And now I try to also explain you a little bit, or share my experience, not explain, but share my experience. What are really key takeaways for me, having worked and studied the topic of circular economy now for a while, that really it's important to know where you are starting from, investing in this analysis, and build the stakeholder alliances around it. I think that's really a very powerful one. And therefore I want to leave it, and I hope that we have a couple of more conversations maybe at the end, Milan. It's 10:30 now.
10:30,
if there are any questions, I would be happy to do so, but we also, as I promised you, try to stop on time. And thanks all of you for the fantastic opportunity to share this morning a little bit.
Harald, thank you very much. Three words that we are sharing through this conference is enjoy the speakers and high-level conversations. Engage, actually, to get most of the things that are actually here for you as participants. And at the end, excel. But excel is more towards follow up, what comes after this. And Harald and myself had pleasure to discuss about, okay, it's nice to talk about these things, but we really need to sit and produce some activities together already in the next year, so to get things moving from ground zero. So amazing. Amazing.
Do we have more questions?
No. Well, these are mostly comments that were forwarded by other participants. There was one, if we can have the presentation, we will manage to do this, right? As I understood you correctly.
Yes.
And
yeah, wonderful to stay in touch. I'll try to dial in later today. And perfect. Milan, thank you so much for organizing, and thanks for all of you out there for a fantastic time, and hopefully see you next time in person too. Thank you very much.
Harald, thank you very much once again. I would just like to inform all the participants that are currently on the Zoom link that they can follow the following panel discussion that will be held by major stakeholders from Serbia, but it will be translated in English, so you can enjoy that conversation in order to see what is actually happening in Serbia. On the other, in hall 3, we have again the panel discussion in Bulgaria that is being discussed about similar things. So please feel free to just join the Zoom directly through this link, or if you are looking the whole conference over the stream, please just refresh your page, because the Zoom link will be then refreshed together with you, and then you will be able to join the whole discussion. I would dearly like to help Harald and join definitely in his active speech or action-directed speech, that we need to come together, collaborate transparently and honestly as soon as in January 2021. Harald, thanks once more.
Thank you, fantastic. See you soon.
See you soon.
Talk later. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Bye-bye.